been having a lot of meetings recently. After what happened with Concrete River last year, my executive producer, Chris Hall, and I have just been taking meetings with potential investors who might want to come on board, one of whom who actually offered to invest in a film a year earlier. And as we've been having this meeting, something has stood out. We've both included in our pitches that there's the possibility that making these kinds of films could be the thing that supercharges a career. Question for you guys. And when I've reflected upon hearing myself say that, I found myself beginning to dream of what it would look like if this film is the one that helped me, quote unquote, make it big. I imagine giving speeches and accepting awards, posing for photographs. But when I also think about that, I remember that I've done all that. And it hasn't been as meaningful as being in a space where the work is actually being created. I remind myself that chasing that validation is what I've spent my life doing, from being considered Black enough, American enough, human enough, mixed enough, always trying to be enough. So for the past few years, I've been thinking that there has to be another way. Our lives cannot be dependent upon the whims of a company, an algorithm, or some benevolent patron. We can't all be relying upon meeting our own version of our rich dentist uncle to make our dreams come true. And I think there is. And I think it's by building creative sovereignty. We as filmmakers have been conditioned to believe that our hands are in the fate of somebody else. That if we just get the right investor, the right festival acceptance, the right algorithm boost, then we'll finally be validated. Then we'll finally matter. And I believe this too for over the majority of my career. Every film that I've submitted, I've wondered, is this the one that blows up? Is this the one that gets me to that next level? I have, as of this point, produced 2 projects for Filmmaker programs. These are programs that provide a grant in order to help you make a short film, something that already in itself is hard to do. And the existence of these Filmmaker programs is very, very important. And I don't want to take anything away from how important these programs are and how grateful I am to have participate in them and also work with the filmmakers to get their films off of the ground. In these programs, there have been a lot of promises made that these will help our careers blossom. And sometimes it's out of their control, but there's frustration when those promises aren't delivered or are slow to be delivered. Creative sovereignty is about governing ourselves and actually connecting with the people who support us. It's about using our work to build a support ecosystem where we won't simply disappear at the whim of a person, entity, or algorithm. We have been sold 2 paths as filmmakers. The Hollywood game is one that I've been involved in for the majority of my career. It's where you wait for somebody else to give you permission. You wait for a gatekeeper by submitting to festivals. You hope that somebody at that festival notices you. You pray that your film gets picked up, and you build your career on the approval of executives who may or may not understand your vision. I played that game for a long time, and then I started working in what was then called digital and now just is everything everywhere. But it's the content game. It's where you feed the algorithm, you post consistently, you chase trends, and you build a following on platforms you don't actually own. You hope the rules don't change overnight. Having worked in both of these spheres, not only creating my own content, but also working with other large digital creators to either help them create more of the same content they're making or even like upscale their content. I worked for a company called Fullscreen, which was owned by AT&T. We worked with a lot of creators, giving them shows that would go on YouTube and also other platforms at that time, because a lot of money was being spent just pushing out as much video as possible with creators that already had large followings. I noticed that both of these paths have the same fatal flaw. You are building your creative life on rented land. You are building a creative system based upon what somebody else owns. And the pressure to choose between these 2 games is immense. Hollywood promises legitimacy. It promises that you've reached the final tier, the upper echelon of everything. but it demands that you wait for permission. It demands that you wait for validation and that it's your turn and that there's only a certain amount of slots available for people to be considered as filmmakers. It's almost like getting a license to be a filmmaker, which in and of itself does not exist. Social media promises reach, but it demands that you dance metaphorically for an algorithm that could actually change tomorrow. You could be doing everything right and all of a sudden your views drop. All of a sudden the brands that you are working with don't want to work with you anymore, and that means less income coming in your pocket. Both are ebbs and flows. Some days you're up, some days you're down. Nothing is really consistent. I want to first of all be honest about what's happening in the traditional entertainment industry right now. Hollywood is consolidating. At the time of this recording, Paramount is trying to buy Warner Brothers, and that means there's Netflix, Amazon, Warner Brothers, YouTube, Universal, and Apple. It's not a lot of choices. And when you consolidate, that means you're going to be seeing fewer films that take risks or have real meaning. There's nothing that really leaps off the screen outside of a few outliers that really make us feel like I have to go and see that. It's largely the same stories from the same voices, and there's a shift towards playing it safe because when you have consolidation, you take on a lot of debt to buy another company, so you want to make sure that you have a sure thing to be able to pay off that debt. Social media's promise hasn't exactly borne fruit either. Yeah, you can build a following, but you don't own that audience. The algorithm can change at a whim, making it nearly impossible to actually be in charge of your career. You're renting attention and not building relationships, at least if you do it in the traditional way of how social media is used, which is posting for likes and followers. And now there's generative AI video. It is slowly taking over everyone's feeds, and if it continues improving at the same way, it could make us start to question who or what is even real anymore. And that will make everything muddled and chaotic. And so the systems we've been told to rely upon are either closing their doors or changing the rules mid-game. And that begs the question, so what do we do? And then I realized we have been asking the wrong question. And I want to tell a story about a creator who I know who actually experienced what happens when part of your platform goes away. I've known a creator called Ernest Crim III. He does Black History TikToks and he's on Instagram. He's in a lot of different places. And recently his Meta account for no reason got banned. And he had over 400,000 followers on that platform. And he and I had talked, and I had told him a couple of years ago, like I said, hey, you got to get yourself on a newsletter platform because Instagram can like go away at any second. And I don't know why I said it. I've always believed in newsletters. I just tried to impress the same thing upon him. And then I looked for something of his one day and I saw that his Instagram was gone. I couldn't find him because I wanted to send him a private message. So I just texted him. I was like, hey, what happened to your Instagram? And it was like, yeah, something happened where like Meta banned me for some reason. They wouldn't tell me. And now I'm trying to get my account back. He's gotten his Facebook back at the time of this recording, but not his Instagram. But when it got hit the first time, he immediately got on Substack, which you should find Ernest Crim on Substack and subscribe to him if you're not already, him and Conscious Lee. This just further solidified my thought process that we cannot rely on these platforms. Like, even though I'm on Substack and I love Substack and I love the community that's forming on there, there's the 50 film projects that are happening. The Non-Day movement is happening, which is featured in Slam Dance. Ted Hope is on there. There's a lot of wonderful people. I know that a platform can change at any time. Because you have access to the emails on Substack, I try to download them at least once a month. So if anything happens, I can at least take my audience and have their emails and start up a new newsletter. But just seeing how Ernest, who still has a very large platform on other social media platforms, I know I said platform twice, he's got, I think, like 500,000 on TikTok. His Facebook is pretty large. He knows now, and I've seen now, how important it is to own your audience. And that means having their email or phone number. Those are the two things that you need. Some way to contact them in order to let them know that you're still here, you're still creating, you're still alive. But do it tastefully, especially if somebody's phone number. Don't be hitting them up and be like, come watch my movie. Be cautious with it. Because these are the stakes. Here's what happens if we don't build this. We build a life where we are never fully in control. And I know that you can never be ultimately in control. You can be your own boss, Everybody says to become an entrepreneur because you can be your own boss and do what you want to do. But while you don't have a boss to answer to, you do have customers and clients to answer to. So there's always somebody that you're in relation to. But the life that we are trying to build now is not really one that we're in control of. We're not in the driver's seat. We are ultimately at the whim of somebody else, not just of our creative lives, but also our personal ones. We give up vacations, we give up time spent with friends and family, we give up health and personal development, all for a reward that, and I promise you this, will feel a little meaningless once you actually achieve it. It will be fun for the moment that you're in it, and then after that, it'll just be kind of a statue that you stare at, you look at it fondly, but then you'll be wondering, where's the next thing? How can I chase that again? And I know this because I've been there. I've stood on stages, I've held awards, I've posed for the photographs, I've walked the red carpets. They're actually pretty small. While they have felt great in the moment, they have felt a little empty because none of it was really built upon my own terms. And I know none of it was sustainable and none of it was actually mine. The cost of playing their game isn't just professional frustration, it's your life. So the answer, again, is to build creative sovereignty. But how do we do this? Here's what that looks like in practice. The first step is to use what's available to capture attention. That means we have to use all the tools in the toolbox. We have to go where the attention is and grab it. Yes, that means using social media, or signal media as I like to call it, because you are signaling for people to either pay attention to you or something that you feel that they should either spend their time or money on. Pick a few platforms for me. This is obviously here, YouTube, Substack, and LinkedIn. Those are my main platforms that I actually create original content for. You will find some of my stuff on Instagram and TikTok, but dirty little secret, I'm taking this YouTube video and I'm cutting it up and I'm putting it over there. I'll put more time and effort over there when I have time, but since I'm only one person, I want to make sure that because I'm only one person, I'm managing my energy correctly. And for right now, just sharing those same thoughts over on those platforms without doing a ton of extra effort is what works for me. So pick the few that work for you. But the important part is to use these platforms to share your message and share your work. This isn't about abandoning social media, it's about just being strategic with it. So for example, if you are a filmmaker, maybe Instagram is best for you because you can put behind the scenes content there. If you're just getting started, YouTube may be a great place to start screening some of your films and getting some feedback. Sidebar, I think that film festivals outside of like the huge ones, and especially for shorts, should be a little bit more lenient when it comes to putting films on YouTube. I mean, if you see a film that's a short on YouTube, does that mean you're not going to go watch it at the festival? I'm actually working with a couple of festival programmers to see if I can convince them of this idea and see if it can actually catch on. And you could also use LinkedIn for making industry connections. Point is, don't try to be everywhere. Pick 2 or 3 where your people actually are and go there. Find the places where you actually know people. I think that's the best way to start because your network is going to be people that you know already. Find those people, find the platforms where they're at, and then communicate with them there. The second step is to move your people to what you own. Make it a regular practice to move people from the platforms that you're renting to the ones you actually own. A newsletter, a Discord server, a membership community. This isn't a one-time migration. This is an ongoing practice. Every post, every video, every interaction that you have should be an invitation to go deeper with you in a space that you control. A conversation, a Zoom meeting, something where it looks like I am communicating with you one-on-one and I have a way to communicate with you again, where I'm not reliant upon a platform that may or may not go away in order to do that. What I do in YouTube is everywhere in the description, I have subscribed to my newsletter for exclusive insights that I don't share anywhere else because that's true. Make the value clear and make the invitation specific. Third part is shift your identity. You aren't creating content. You're not vying for attention. You are building a body of work in a community. And this is the mental shift that will change everything for you. Content is disposable. Anything you put out as far as content, yes, people will watch it, but it will easily be forgotten. We watch 1 million Instagram videos every day or TikTok videos. How many of them do you really remember that you can recall months from now? But a body of work is something that compounds in value. While content chases algorithms, a body of work attracts the right people over time. And what I've learned is when you build your own ecosystem, you get to define the terms. You don't have to fit into someone else's box. You don't have to be urban enough for one company, which I've heard way too many times, or commercial enough for another. You don't have to fragment yourself to be palatable. Creative sovereignty means that you show up as whole. The filmmaker who's also a strategist, the artist who's also an entrepreneur, the storyteller who doesn't fit into neat categories and doesn't have to. Because when you own your platform, you own your identity, and that changes everything. That is actually how the Blended Future project began. I thought that I had to make Black stories, and then I thought that people wouldn't understand mixed stories. So I was like, why don't I just start making the things that I want to make? I started writing them, and then I started producing mixed stories. I started directing them on my own. And that has allowed me to carve out my own lane. It's the lane that I inhabit. It's the perspective that I put forth into the world. And that has enabled me to connect with a lot of really wonderful people who, if they don't have that exact experience, they really resonate with it. And it gives me a frame of reference and a point of view. It's given me the ability to create my own platform. I might use other platforms to get the message out, but even if those platforms go away, the message won't go away because I wasn't relying on that platform to be the message. I wasn't supplying that platform what I thought that it needed. I was using that platform to serve my purposes. And the fourth step is to take control of your career direction. Engaging in these practices means that you're in control of the direction your career takes. You go from feeding somebody else's system to building up yourself and the people around you, including the audience that supports you. You're not the talent waiting for permission. You are the producer, the showrunner. You're the architect of your own life. And I think us as artists and filmmakers have to take that control back. We've outsourced it and we've given it away to someone else because we think that we need permission, but we can actually pick the direction that we want to go. We just have to learn the skills that we need and then go in that direction. I have spoken to several people this week who have told me that they have never met a working artist before. And it's taken me a long time to realize that that is indeed what I am. And the way that I've done this is really simple. I create work that is original, then I share that work with people, and then I gain skills while trying to create that work. There's always a new skill that I have to learn in order to create something. First, it was just knowing, well, I knew how to edit, but it was getting more comfortable with editing because I told myself I would never edit in life as a professional. And then fast forward 5 years from saying that and I'm editing professionally. But learning those skills and then sharing that work, sharing the skills that you know and how those skills created that work, and then using those same skills for somebody else. Every short film that I've made, I've shown it to somebody, or I've gone into a job interview where they've seen the short film and they've wanted to talk about that short film as opposed to anything that I did for another company. Things that I've done for another company just validates the fact that I can work for another company, but they want to know the original thing that I made and where I came up with that idea and how it was possible. So I want to give everyone an assignment this week. Audit where your audience lives and what platforms that you use. And instead of trying to constantly increase your number of followers, ask yourself, what practices can I create to move those followers to a place that I control? Write it down, make a plan, start this week. Start creating a system to move your followers from rented to owned. Because the future of filmmaking isn't about who has the biggest following on Instagram or who goes to Sundance. It's about who builds the strongest, most direct relationship with the people who actually care about their work. Making our work a little bit harder to access and making it more special is the way of the future. Think like a speakeasy. Something that we're thinking about doing for a film that I recently produced called Chicken Scratch is having a treasure hunt that will give you the location of where you can go and see the film, and you'll also get like a free drink or something alongside. We're still figuring it out, but things like that make people take a couple of extra steps. When you tell somebody that they can't have something immediately, it kind of makes them want it a little bit more if you do it in the right way. And I think leaning into that can really help artists get that extra edge because we don't have a giant marketing machine behind us. So make the commitment. I'm committing to building places where we can all gather and stay in community, not just online, but also offline as well. And I'm talking to several people about creating those experiences in person, because I know that we can't keep depending upon these large companies while they're consolidating and buying each other up. All of our data is being like passed around and shared, and we as the consumer are now the product, and our wishes are not being kept in mind. And I'm inviting you to join me in doing that same thing, because I know that while they can try to rig the game, we don't have to play it. We can build sovereignty instead. Thank you everybody for watching. Make sure that you like this video, subscribe to the channel. Everything that you do helps me out. Subscribe to my Substack, marislitica.substack.com, and I will see you next time.